The NHL is back, and so are the expert hockey handicappers at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Right now, you can lock in as many handicappers as you want through the Stanley Cup, giving you 25 weeks of hockey for $3.99 using coupon code PuckTime100 when purchasing an NHL season pass. Lock in your favorite handicapper through the Stanley Cup in July.
We are live. Welcome back to WagerTalk TV. It is puck time. It is time to talk some NHL betting. With all the antics going on behind the scenes, I can already tell it's going to be an amazing show and a fun show today. Carmine Bianco joining me as usual, and Bryan Leonard here with us in his usual Thursday spot. Carmine, my co-host, I'll bring it to you first, and you have a pretty important message and something special that means a lot to me to bring up for this show.
Yeah, guys, you're probably going to see anytime I tweet out today, and a ton of tweets that are on social media with the hashtag Bell Let's Talk. Up here in Canada, Bell is one of our two, along with Rogers, our internet companies, our TV station companies. And each year they do an initiative for mental health awareness, where every tweet, every text message sent out, money goes obviously to that initiative. So even with you guys in the US sending out those tweets and putting that hashtag Bell Let's Talk in it helps out. Each and every year, millions and millions of dollars are raised on this day by Bell. So it's a great initiative. At the end of the day, guys, we're all in this together. It's funny that this happens because last night I had a couple of guys who literally trolled me. I just hit the block button on them. We're all in this together at the end of the day, whether it's in life itself or in sports. We're trying to beat the books. So with that in mind, guys, use that hashtag Bell Let's Talk.
Absolutely. It's a great cause every single year. Something that I like to make a big point to always express on Twitter and to make sure everybody knows I'm not alone. And no matter who you are, where you're living, what you do for work, you're cared about and people are there for you. So guys, use that hashtag Bell Let's Talk. It mean a lot to both Carmine and myself. Bryan Leonard, let's bring you in on a good note here. We'll have you back on the show, your typical Thursday spot. How are things?
Everything's going good here, guys, and that's a great thing to say because I've dealt with depression in my life, and the mental health is very important. The guys like in the NBA, Kevin Love's come out about it, and it really takes a lot of balls to come out and admit that you've had problems in the past. So I agree that's a great thing to look forward to every year, and make sure you do that.
Absolutely. And, doing what we do for work, it's a great job. We all love being handicappers, talking about sports betting. But for everybody on there on Twitter, be careful with your gambling. Don't risk more than you can afford to lose. And just enjoy the sports and love what you're doing and love what you're talking about right here on Puck Time with us. And without further ado, we will get into our first game and discuss these certain games we have lined up for today. We're talking Rangers and Sabres, Islanders, Capitals, Carolina Hurricanes, and the Tampa Bay Lightning. From a total perspective, Philadelphia taking on New Jersey, and our last game will be San Jose and Colorado. So we're going to start things off with our pick'em play of the day, the Rangers and the Sabres here. Sabres got the best of the Rangers in game one. I'll throw it to you, Carmine, for your thoughts here on the Rangers and Sabres.
Yeah, sorry. I was getting some dual audio in my head here, and I thought I was hearing voices for some reason, which is odd on a day like today. Yeah, you know what? You looked at these two teams, and I said it going into the last game. I figure the Rangers are the better team here. Sabres will probably be of this division at the end of the day, but the Sabres are playing well right now, and that added scoring to the team is helping them. Obviously, Taylor Hall, that power play. The Rangers got to stay out of the box first and foremost. I would think if you're looking at a side here, it probably has to be the Rangers. I I said on the previous show that I like the under in this game, and I'm probably going to come right back with the under again. It's going to be Schuster in net, and in all likelihood, the Sabres are going to stick with Linus Ullmark in net until they have a true back-to-back or like a 3 and 4 nights where they might go to Carter Hart, and that's coming up in a few days' time, I believe. But as far as this game goes, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. It's going to be the Rangers for me in this game, and a lean on the under.
It really seems like the bounce back spots have been pretty solid so far in the season. And right now, this is definitely a bounce back spot in a situation to back a team after a pretty tough loss. This Rangers team has not really been able to hold on to leads. They haven't been able to play a full 60 minutes of hockey, Brian. So honestly, I'm not sure I'm running to the window to bet this team, but I might be taking a slow walk to the window to bet them and have a small play on them. What about you?
Well, I'm having problems with the sound, so if I repeat something you guys have said, I apologize because I couldn't hear you clearly. But yeah, I think I'm a little bit higher on Buffalo than a lot of people are, at least from my perspective. This is a team with a lot of talent and a lot of scoring talent on this team. But I don't know if I can get there with this number. I think the number's right on here. It's a situation for me. I mean, I just love this card today. This is the strongest hockey card of the season for myself. So there's plenty of games on here that I love. I just think the line is right here. So it's probably a game I'll be setting out.
Definitely. That's how it's going to be with some of these bounce back spots as well. So as much as you might like it and like a place, the price is where it is, Brian. And like Brian points out, you want to be very aware of these prices. Guys, as we all know, there's 3% plays, there's 4% plays, there's 5% plays. Don Buster, he's with us on the show every single Tuesday. He has his first 5% selection of the season, and you can get $10 off his first 5% play using the coupon code NHL10. Of course, the Prez also has a 5% play as well. He's been rolling with all of his 5% plays across all sports with hockey, football, so on and so forth. So Buster, guys, has been on fire with his 5% NHL plays for the past 3 years. And I think you guys should go over to sportsmemo.com and grab that. Use the coupon code NHL10. And it really seems to me, I can't really speak for these guys, but all of us are pretty low volume with our 5% NHL picks. I mean, as Brian mentioned tonight, I think there's, 14 games. There's a lot of games every day. But for the majority, all of us are pretty relaxed and calm, waiting for that spot to bet our 5%. And both Buster and the Prez have found one for today on the big card. So check out Buster over at sportsmemo.com and use that coupon code NHL10. Of course, Prez as well at WagerTalk.com. Our next game up, another bounce back situation. It's the Islanders. It's the Capitals. I mentioned this on yesterday's show because we only had 2 games to talk about. Islanders minus 135 currently in this game over the Capitals. The last game was pretty much on pace to go to overtime. I mean, guys, there was 30 seconds left in regulation, and the Capitals win that game. The interesting thing for me is that the Islanders didn't play their best defensive performance. They are known for being so strong defensively and going under the total pretty much all the time. And to see them give up a goal with 30 seconds remaining, there's just, to me, too much leadership, too many veterans, too much of a great coaching staff for them to not rebound here. And in this spot in particular, we're still seeing the likes of Orlov, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, Samsonov still out for this team. So I'll throw it to you, Brian. Obviously, some key guys out for this team still for the Capitals. However, they've played pretty well without them. But I think as it prolongs, they're going to start giving up some goals.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it on the show either yesterday or the day before. When key players are out the first game, everybody seems to rally around them, and that's the team you want to play on. And then from that point on, you look to fade, especially as far as it goes. Washington right now, the problem with betting Washington is the power play. You normally find Washington a very good power play. Obviously, you've got one of the biggest goal scorers, superstars in the NHL history out there that really picks apart on the power plays. But you take a look at on the season right now, Washington's 27th and expected goals for in power play, and that's just not Washington Capitals right now. And keep in mind, those numbers include when all those players were playing earlier this season. So the power play is the main culprit here for Washington. You're looking at 5-on-5; they're doing just as well as the Islanders here. I prefer the Islanders in this game, but it's about the number that I thought it was going to be. But I think they get some. The Islanders get this victory and a little bit of revenge here.
Carmine, we discussed this on the show yesterday a little bit, but to Brian's point, the price is here, minus 135. Are you putting your money on the Islanders tonight?
Yeah, listen, we already know what the situation is in Washington. If you watch that game, you'll know the Islanders were much the better team, but sometimes the better team doesn't win. You know what I mean? Like, you look at the way that game ended, it's kind of bad in the sense of the Islanders deserved at least a point in that game. Komarov took a boarding penalty in that third period, halfway through that third period. And, you know, it's funny watching that game. It was on NBC Sports Washington, and you're listening to the commentators, and all they're talking about is, yeah, that's a definite boarding penalty. It's 5 minutes. I've seen worse. I understand boarding penalties are part of it is part of the game, but he had his body turned sideways, so he wasn't head first into the boards. I think he sold it as a 5-minute penalty, and they review all of these boarding penalties anyways, but that shouldn't have been more than 2 minutes. They still killed that 5 minutes, but when you kill a 5-minute penalty like that, it just kind of screws up your lines the rest of that period and the rest of the game. And they got Schultz got an easy one, or I wouldn't say an easy one. He got a lucky one with about 30 seconds left, and that was it. I'm perfectly fine with coming back with the Islanders here in this spot with the players still out for Washington and getting the win tonight. I think it's one of those ones where you look at that first game result and you go with the exact opposite result in this game and take the Isles. You don't have to lay much. I think it's like a 135. I think it's pretty much the right price in this game. So Islanders for me.
Sounds like we're in agreement on this play here with the Islanders to bounce back, get the job done, guys. Once again, don't forget to go over to sportsmemo.com and grab Buster's big 5% play, his very first one of the season, all the way from Mexico. Buster still grinding out this NHL season, putting in some work, and he's been doing a great job with his big play, so don't forget to go grab that play. Use the coupon code NHL10 for $10 off of that play. Guys, we're going to talk some totals now. We obviously have our total segment at the end, but this one, I wanted to mention this one. Tampa Bay, Carolina. I saw some 5.5s. I saw some 6s. Had a feeling this one would move. I thought it would move completely at every single shop across the board. It's interesting to me because the Carolina Hurricanes, over the past couple years, have been a pretty definitive under team. And now the pace of play with them is really starting to pick up. Tampa's pace looks unbelievable, and their defense has actually looked a little more sloppy. They're taking a lot of penalties. I'll get your thoughts, Carmine, on this one, to what you really think about this total and the total move.
Yeah, I'm against the total move from 5.5 to 6. In fact, I think the fact that if it becomes readily available across the board at 6, I'm going to take the under. My point is that when you have two very good teams who are normally very good defensive teams as well too, I understand they have the offense, but people expect, two offensive teams, this has to go over. It's not necessarily the case. We haven't seen a lot of Carolina so far because I think 1 or 2 games were canceled because of COVID issues with the Hurricane squad. I tend to look at like I said, the under here. This could be one of those 3-2 type games. You look at, who Tampa has played thus far. In their 2 games, they've played Chicago and they played Columbus. In that last game against Columbus, we talked about it. This Columbus team is still a thorn in their sides of the Lightning team, and you don't want to be laying, a big number with Tampa against Columbus at times, and it was a 5-2 Columbus win. As far as the total goes here, in all honesty, I just think that 2 very good defensive teams, even though they can score, it's probably going to be one of those tighter affairs. So I'm going to go under 6 if that's the number that we're listing here.
Carmine's liking the under with that move. Bryan moves from 5.5 to 6, 2 quality teams in their respective division. Do you feel like the under is the play here or the over?
I hate to disagree with Carmine because he's so good at this, but you take a look at expected goals 5-on-5, and these are two of the top 5 teams in the NHL, number 1 and number 5. We're dealing with small sample sizes right now. Where teams have played between 3 and 7 games, so we're still dealing with that. Other than Vancouver, who's played 9, I believe. But you take a look at power plays. These are two teams you would expect to have a lot of success in the power plays. Right now, expected goals from the power plays, Tampa Bay is 19th and Carolina is 24th. They've each only had 3 power play goals this season. I expect more out of them as the season goes on. Usually, these are two, in my mind, 2 elite teams in this league. And to have both of them in the lower half of the power rating for power plays is something that's going to change. I'm one who wants to anticipate the change when these things happen, as opposed to others wait for it to happen and then they go with it. If you're ahead of the turn on these, you're able to get good lines. If you wait until something's actually happened that you think is due, you've lost all line value. So I understand why this line's going up. I don't know if I'm looking to lay over the 6, but if you could still find a 5.5 out there with some juice, I think that's the way I would look in this one.
I kind of think about it like this, guys, a correlated thought process. If the Carolina Hurricanes win this game, I believe this game goes under. If Tampa Bay wins this game, I believe it goes over and we see plenty of goals. The thing with Tampa Bay, I've noticed that they just don't take their foot off the gas pedal. They will keep going. They will score on you as long as they can. And Carolina, if they get up 3-1, they will trap the center of the ice for the entire game if they want to, and they will not be concerned about running that score up. So I have a slight lean to the over, but to me, this is kind of a watch and learn one, looking at 2 key games and 2 key teams in their respective division. Interested to see how things play out, because I've talked about it on the show a lot of the times, guys. This division is pretty top heavy. I mean, we can all agree the Tampa Bay will finish at the top. Carolina will be solid in this division. So interested to see how this works out. Carmine, you're shaking your head. There's no way you think anybody besides Tampa Bay is finishing at the top.
I did in our preseason video that we did, Andrew. You know that I did say that if anyone is going to beat Tampa in this division in a shortened 56-game schedule, it is likely going to be the Hurricanes, just because game 1 to game 56, they play the exact same style. They never change. Tampa Bay, we saw last year, they're one of the teams that are susceptible to, especially at the beginning of the year, to starting slowly, not having the greatest, they'll have 5 or 6 game spurts. You can't actually struggle in a 56-game schedule, and it more so for other teams. But I wouldn't rule out, as crazy as it sounds, I wouldn't rule out Carolina winning this division. And if you look at the odds, the preseason odds, they were the second choice. So obviously there's a little bit of respect to this team as far as winning the division. I understand it's Tampa, they're the defending cup champs. We'll see. And it starts with tonight.
Well, and Carolina has played Detroit and Nashville on the season. The last time Carolina suited up and laced up their skates for a National Hockey League game, 10 days ago, January 18th. So we saw that we've seen so far. Right now, rust does not mean lack of offensive skills. It means lack of defensive effort. And, playing Detroit and Nashville, 2 teams that can't throw a beach ball in the ocean right now, this is going to be a different game, I think. It's going to be a whole new ball game, a whole new hockey game than what they've seen so far in the season. That's just my thoughts here. Carmine says, hey, take a little bit of a shot here on Carolina to get them in the division. So that's going to be the 2 teams, I'd say, Carmine, in that division. But the heavy favorite of the day, Philadelphia and New Jersey. So Philadelphia was coming off back-to-back losses against the Boston Bruins. They were frustrated. Their goaltender was throwing his stick around. The reports in the locker room were not very good. And now they are minus 170 after having a fantastic performance against the Devils, and the Devils had a solid performance there. So I thought it was a great spot. I bet on the Flyers to win in their last game against the Devils, but I'll tell you what, you want to hop on the team at the beginning of a win streak, at the beginning of getting hot, like Carmine always says. But I am not comfortable, Bryan, with this minus 170. The Devils, they're calling them the pesky Devils, and I feel like they could be a sneaky underdog. If I like this game here, I'm actually going under the total, and that's kind of the only spot I'm going here. I cannot play a side in this game.
Yeah, after I just spoke about being ahead of the line moves and being ahead of teams about to go on a run, I think that has a lot to do with this line here. Philadelphia coming into the season, I didn't have them rated as high as others, but a lot of people really thought this was the team that was going to be a surprise team and had some value. They haven't shown it so far. I mean, they've got that 4-2-1 record, but to me, they've been very lucky in that regard. If you look at expected goals for percentage on the season and 5-on-5, Philadelphia's 30th, right ahead of the Kings and right behind the Ducks. That's not a team I'm looking to back right now based on what this current line is. If you take a look at power plays, neither one of these teams has really dominated in power plays either. So I know the talent's there for Philadelphia. They've got the better talent in this matchup, but how can you really lay that number right now without them coming out and proving it? I think the line, with their record coming out, like I said, 4-2-1, people are saying, well, they're getting the job done. This is Philadelphia. This is what we thought. If you've watched Philadelphia this year and you've looked at the deeper numbers, this team has been very fortunate to have that record. So it'd be the dog or nothing for me in this one.
I also think it's very interesting to take a look here and look on the season so far. We've seen New Jersey score 2, 4, 1, 2, and 3, but some of those opponents have been very susceptible to giving up poor goals, very sloppy hockey. And Philadelphia, the only thing they can be worried about right now, Carmine, is playing better defensively. They had a huge breakdown against the Boston Bruins and blew a 2-goal lead. The following game, they gave up 5 goals. So their first game against the Devils was a pretty good defensive game here. If you don't want to lay this price, Carmine, how would you feel about a team total under for the Devils?
Yeah, that might be the way to go with what I was going to say. And you seem to be a little sour about that first Bruins Philadelphia game, Andrew. I know we were on opposite sides of that, and you wouldn't normally see a third period between the Bruins and Flyers like we saw in that game there. It's Carter Hart in net tonight, and I have to believe after the Flyers hung him out to dry in those 2 games in Boston where he allowed 10 goals. I know the Bruins scored 11, but obviously one was a shootout. He allowed 10. They hung him out to dry, and especially in that third period, you would have to think this is his first start since that game because Elliott was in net against Wedgwood in that first one, and I think it's Wedgwood again tonight. For the Devils, but I would have to think that they're going to play a much better defensive game. So with that in mind, if you're not going to take the under 6 total, you may look at it the other way. And what Andrew's saying is taking under the team total for the Devils here, keeping in mind that if you believe that the Flyers are going to win, and I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, that obviously means that we're not going to see much from the Devils here. So that's not a bad route to go, Andrew, as far as that goes. But I can't lay the 160. Even if I believe the Flyers are going to win, I would lean to under and the under team total for the Devils.
Well, I'm happy to hear you agree with me and you share that same thought process. And to answer your question, Carm, I am sour about how many times I've had teams blow 2-goal leads on me so far this season. It's the anniversary of that bad beat. It's 1 week from today where it was 4-2 with 15 minutes to go in the game and the Flyers lose 5-4 in overtime. So let's try and avoid that happening tonight in this Philadelphia Flyers game if you're backing them anyway. Our last game of the day, the San Jose Sharks, the Colorado Avalanche, not the last game on the board, the last game we're going to discuss. Well, we saw the Colorado Avalanche just have an absolute abundance of goals. I mean, they just went out and put up a touchdown. I think Carmine tweeted out touchdown Colorado, and they really just found the back of the net. They were kind of due for an outbreak of goals, and San Jose has just looked sloppy. They they will have some nice goals. They will have their top six having some decent games, but I don't trust their defensive core. Their defensive core is built for hockey styles of 15, 20 years ago. Defensemen now have to be able to jump into the rush, have to be able to be quick on their feet. And I just don't really see that with San Jose's defense. So I'm kind of surprised to see a 6 here. And I'm curious when the bookmakers will give us a 6.5 in a San Jose Sharks game. So, Carmine, I'll ask you, do you share the same thoughts as me?
Yeah, I do. In watching that game, the Avalanche were all over them. I had the Avalanche puck line as a bet, and I think I gave it out here on the show as a best bet plus 120. In talking about this game, because obviously it's the second game of sort of a back-to-back, I tend to say that sometimes you can look at the dog in that second or third game, much like you just figure that you're not going to see the same offensive output from a team. But so many teams are proving me wrong on that. You look at the Montreal-Vancouver series and 2 high-scoring games. I'm like, this can't happen in the third game, and all of a sudden they put up another 11 or 12 goals. I made a point the other day that if Ottawa has a chance to beat Vancouver, it'll likely be in the third game of this series. But if you watch last night's game, how could you possibly make a point for Ottawa winning in Vancouver?
Yeah.
They just look absolutely terrible. With that said, San Jose were completely outclassed by the Avalanche, 7-3. I would expect the same thing, which is a Colorado win on the puck line, laying the goal and a half. And because the total is at 6, I would lean to the over here as well too.
From a total standpoint, Bryan, are you with us? Do you agree that 6 is a little bit low here with the way we've seen? Or are you looking at, hey, that was a little bit too crazy of a game, it's going to slow down?
Yeah, so much depends on the calls in these games and how many penalties you get, which obviously leads to power plays. Excuse me. On the season, Colorado Avalanche have scored 11 goals off the power play in 7 games. San Jose has only scored 6. But when you take a look at their expected goals, they're basically right there next to each other, number 10 and number 11. Colorado actually has been outscored 5 versus 5 so far this season. So in even strength, Colorado struggled a little bit. It's easier to say than it is to do, but if San Jose can keep those penalties down, I think they've got a shot in this game. Unfortunately, the talent level here, I'm not a huge San Jose fan, although, to be honest with you, they played a little bit better this year than what I thought they should have. But Colorado is an elite team. Colorado, if they get on a run, if they get some penalties, and if you fall behind in a game, and we've seen this so many times, if a team falls behind, they start taking chances. They may even try to get a fight so that way they can change the way the game's going. That's not a good thing to do against this Colorado Avalanche power play. So I guess I would agree that I think it's going to go over a little bit. But if San Jose plays a clean game, I think this game stays under.
I'm right there with you, Bryan. I agree. And the problem is that the expected goals hasn't been great for them 5-on-5, but with how dynamic their power play is and the guys that they have out there and the talent level, I'm happy you mentioned that because expected goals is one thing, but from the improvement aspect, they're not going to get any worse 5-on-5. This is a Colorado Avalanche team that has shockingly struggled 5-on-5, and they've made up for it on the power play, but I feel like they will get better 5-on-5, and against San Jose, a team that doesn't have the same amount of speed that they have, I feel like they'll pick things up and have a pretty good set against them. I like the over 6 for me in this game. More goals, the better. And San Jose has some talent. They just can't really keep up with this Colorado Avalanche team. Guys, don't forget to grab Buster's 5% play over at sportsmemo.com. It's NHL 10 is the coupon code to use for $10 off of that play. It's time for our best bets and a little bit of time to promo what we have up for this weekend and for tonight. And Bryan, I will start with you.
Actually, I mentioned how strong I think this card is. I've got 4 plays today, and I'm normally one that will either have 1 or 2. So to reward all the clients that are going to be watching this video, I've posted an all-inclusive today. Normally, if you pay, buy all 4 plays, it costs you $100. If you get all 4 plays today, I'm only charging $29, and that gets all 4 plays. And what I think is the strongest card of the entire season. Love this card for Thursday. Yeah, we're talking about best bet for today. I'm going to go with the Knights St. Louis game over the total. I know Carmine the last couple of days has talked about this situation here. Neither team has done a thing on the power play so far. The Knights have scored three goals in the power play. St. Louis has scored 2, but we all know these two teams have a lot of offensive talent. If you watched that last game just 2 days ago, the Knights shot seven shots off the goal. It was a situation where they peppered Bennington all night long. And he played a really good game to be able to get out of there with that victory in overtime. I would take a look at the history between these two teams. It's an over history, especially in Las Vegas. And we also have a situation that if you watch that game, it was wide open. And I expect more of the same here. You talked earlier in the week about a stat that Rob Michaels has come up with. The second game of these back-to-back type of things tend to go over. I agree. I think the over here is the way to play. I think it's going to be very similar to the last game. You do have Fleury probably in goal tonight. They've been switching it off, and Fleury's been excellent. But I will take the overall quality of Fleury over the last couple of years and get a pretty good idea of what we're going to get out of him, as opposed to the small sample size. Love the man. He's on a mission this year. But this St. Louis team could put points on the board, and I think this is going to be a high-scoring contest.
Mr. Bryan Leonard, WagerTalk.com, on Twitter at @BLeonardSports. Strongest card of the season so far from Bryan. I'll be asking Bryan what he likes after this show's over, that's for sure. It sounds like he's pretty confident in his 4-pack. I will have 2 plays up for tonight at WagerTalk, a 2-pack going up for a discounted price as well. And my best bet is going to be on the Islanders in that bounce back spot for them. I just feel like they are the better team. They were deserving in their last game, and they will show out tonight. The way that we saw them collapse defensively in that third period against the Capitals is not really their MO. It's not what they're known for, and they're typically a great bounce back spot type of team. So I like the Islanders to get the job done. I'm more than willing to bet that minus 135 price here on the Islanders, guys. And, I'm fully aware my best bets haven't been too great. They haven't been red hot on this show. It's a long, long season, guys. For all of my all access subscribers, we will turn the page and turn things around. So play it out, stick with me for the ride, and we'll heat up and get things going. And Carmine, I know you've been with me. You've been up and down on the season, but your best bets on the show have been pretty hot, man.
Yeah, according to our producer, I've won 18 straight best bets on this show, even though there's only been 11 actual shows. So I'm not really sure where he's going with that one. 7 in a row. On yesterday's show, I did give a play out for tonight. If you didn't watch yesterday's show, I did give the Vegas Golden Knights minus 1.5 plus 165 for tonight. For much of the same reasons that Bryan just mentioned. That first game, if you watched it, the Knights were definitely the better team from the second period on. I think it'll be Fleury in net tonight. No one's listed as of yet, so we'll see what they do there as far as goalies. But they have flip-flop goalies each and every game, so I would think it's Fleury in net tonight. As far as today's best bet for the show, it's going to be the Arizona Coyotes, minus 140. They ran into an absolutely stonewalling Gibson again. This guy has done it all season. It's unbelievable. At some point, he's not going to be in net, and that might happen in a few games. And I'm just going to auto fade Anaheim. But he absolutely stood on his head in a 1-0 victory for the Ducks. I'm going to look at the Coyotes to get back at them tonight and get the win tonight. So Arizona minus 140 as my best bet. I've got a 5% play up at WagerTalk in soccer this afternoon. So, and I just created a quick coupon code, SOC, COS, SOC. Yeah, I got my letters wrong there. SOC10 to get $10 off that play. That goes at 3:00 today. Like Bryan said, I got a 4-pack up in NHL. I love the card today, so I might actually add a couple smaller plays to that card, but 4 plays up right now at WagerTalk, and you get those for only $29. Just remember to tweet out that Bell Let's Talk hashtag as well too.
All right, Carmine, Italian grade school might not have taught you how to spell, but you can certainly pick games. And Carmine has a 5% play up in soccer, NHL up as well. Bryan has a 4-pack. Buster and Prez have their 5% plays. Sounds like a big day for both sportsmemo.com and wagertalk.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. For Carmine, for Bryan, good to see you. And we'll see you guys tomorrow for Friday's edition of Puck Time right here on WagerTalk TV.
The NHL is back, and so are the expert hockey handicappers at WagerTalk and SportsMemo.com. Right now, you can lock in as many handicappers as you want through the Stanley Cup, giving you 25 weeks of hockey for $3.99 using coupon code PuckTime100 when purchasing an NHL season pass. Lock in your favorite handicapper through the Stanley Cup in July.